All right. Hope you guys had a good bye week. I know we haven't got back together since the USC game, and just recapping that game was very pleased with the performance of our team 2 weeks ago, and as I continuously remind the coaches, the players, there's a cause and effect for everything. Like, things don't happen by chance, and you have to reflect on your preparation. You have to reflect on the game plan. You have to reflect on everything we did to make sure our guys could go and perform that way. And we have to continue to build on that. Right? We have to make sure that that doesn't happen after a loss. That's the expectations from this football team. Recapping just the players of the game for the USC week. For offense was Audric Estime, defense Xavier Watts, and special teams Jadarian Price. And then scout teams player of the week for that week were on defense Cole Aubrey, on offense Kenny Minchie, who did an unbelievable job being our scout team quarterback that week, and then special teams was Eddie Scheidler. And so last week we had a much-needed bye week for our players mentally and physically. They needed it. You think about, we started this season the last week of June. We started training camp and have gone straight until, last week. And so it was a great chance for them to have a bye week and mentally after Wednesday's practice to mentally kind of check out with fall break. But we also challenged them, had to get better. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday we had to practice, and we had to get after it and really make sure that we were improving at all areas of the game of football, but also at the areas that we've been deficient. And so I was really pleased with those 3 days of practices. And then, I think they'll be ready to roll after a three-day break that they got. So turning the page, obviously, to a talented Pitt team that we have coming in here on Saturday. Obviously beat Louisville and could have won that game last week. And so we have to make sure we're ready to go and ready to perform on Saturday. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
We'll start down in front on your left with Tyler Horka.
Marcus, when you went back and did a self-scout of the offense, what were the main differences between those first 4 games and then the next 4? Obviously, you played tougher opponents, but did you find some play calling things? I know you mentioned the execution for sure. Just kind of how did you divvy up the percentages?
Yeah, it's the execution. It's the execution, and we got to be better on third down. But part of being better on third down is being more efficient on first and second down. And there's not just the one common theme in the last 3 or 4 games that we say this is the reason. Each game has its own different story that we have to continue to attack. 5 turnovers one game, right? And that's a different story than last week. And so we have to continue to build confidence in taking shots, especially playing the defense we'll play this week. You're going to have to take some shots and some play action shots. And we're continuously looking at the things we do. But the biggest thing is the execution. So the challenge will continuously be, hey, we have to simplify so the execution is at the standard we need it to be. And it's not more. It's clear.
And then on the other side of the ball, even in that Louisville game, the defense gives you a chance to win. So you've been in every single ball game that you guys have played. Just how good has that unit been? And then when you looked at it, what were the main reasons why you say, man, we're a really good defensive team because of these things?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for the USC game was they played fast because they were clear on what exactly their expectation was. They were relentless. And you got to give credit to Al Golden, our defensive staff, for getting our guys prepared. But at the end of the day, you can put so much emphasis into a game plan, but if the kids don't execute what you want them to do, then it's the game plan's fault. No, it's the ability to get your kids to understand what you want and let them play fast. That is the most important thing as a coaching staff we have to do. And that's the biggest misconception about coaching football, is that it's scheme. No, it's clarity. You have to get your guys to understand exactly what you want so they can play fast and execute. And that's a great example for what our defense has been able to do.
Second row, middle right, Chuck Freeby.
Pitt's made some changes offensively over the course of the season. What is your scouting report on them?
Yeah, they've, obviously with the new quarterback, you really look at what they've done all season to now, what they're doing with the new quarterback. Similar. I mean, it's a similar offense, but, I think the packages might be tailored towards what he does well. Been able to run the ball. Sibo, obviously we know Sibo really well, and he's been running the ball really well the past couple of weeks, and they have some threats on the outside. And so it's a team that I see that's continuously getting better. Like that's what I've seen is, especially in these past 2 weeks, this team has gotten better from what they were at the beginning of the year. And so we got to understand the challenge that will be presented on Saturday.
When we talk preseason, you mentioned how much it hurts when somebody leaves the program. To see people like Sibo and Shane Simon again, what will that be like for you and your team?
It hurts when you see people leave that don't get their degree. That's what really hurts. When guys are able to get their degree from this place and go on and look for an opportunity to play more elsewhere, I'm so happy for those guys. Both of those guys got their Notre Dame degree, and I'm proud of what they've done here at Notre Dame, what they're doing at Pitt, and look forward to seeing them perform on Saturday.
We'll go to the back on the platform, Levon Whitaker.
Marcus, when you look at a team like Pitt that is 2-5, how do you get your players ready mentally to not overlook these guys, in week 9 of your season and to stay competitive?
Yeah, it's the same message, right? It's Saturday's about reaching our full potential, and 12 guaranteed. We're down to 4. Now I guess we got 5 because you're guaranteed to have a bowl game, but. You work too hard to overlook any opponent. And the opportunity to play this game on a Saturday, our guys will be fired up. They'll be ready to roll in Notre Dame Stadium versus a team you put on the film. You say, oh, we got a lot of respect for these guys. And I don't think there will be a lack of motivation at all.
And what's been, I guess, have you talked to the guys, had a meeting with them? What's been the vibes like now after the bye week to see the progression that they made with the mental rest that they've had?
Yeah, we haven't met yet. They just got back last night. They had to be back by 7 o'clock. And so everybody got back on time. And we'll meet here this afternoon. And, it's my job as a head coach is really set the theme and the tone for the week, which I look forward to doing. But if they feel the way I think our coaching staff feels, we're refreshed, we're fired up, and we're ready to roll.
Third row, middle right, Tim O'Malley.
Coach, seeing Jadarian Price with that kickoff return touchdown, is he a guy that you, because of that injury, and it's such a severe injury for a whole offseason, is he a guy you kind of had to bring along a little bit slowly going forward? And is there something more there he can give you in this season?
Yeah, so I've been waiting on you. You know that.
Yeah, I feel it.
So I'll answer your question, and then we can play role reversal for a minute, right?
That's right.
So I was at a football game, watched him coach a little bit yesterday, so I got a couple questions. But Jadarian Price, yeah, talented, man. And to see him, our kickoff return unit has really, man, been close. 1 or 2 blocks away from open and, taking one back. And it happened a couple of times in the USC game that we had some good returns, 1 or 2 blocks that really stopped us from taking all the way. And that last play, the last return was huge for our program, for that unit, for special teams. And so, he is a talented football player that we have such a belief in what he's going to do for this team this year and in the future. And we'll continue to lean on him. So, you ready for me?
Come from him, though?
Yeah.
I mean, from the offensive standpoint. I know Auguste is obviously the bell cow, but it seems that Price, healthy, would be a different runner.
Yeah. I see more from him. As the game dictates. He's one of those guys that we're gonna try to find ways to get the ball to, get it in his hands because he makes things happen when it is. All right, my turn.
Yep. Fire away.
Okay, 2 things. Right, 2nd, 3rd grade championship game. Okay, 2 trips to the red zone.
Yeah. Empty.
0 points. 1 play was a reverse pass that was intercepted in the red zone. You were the offense coordinator there? On that?
On that, yes. It'll say defense
Thoughts on the
wins
red zone play calling? What's your thoughts on those red zone play calling?
They were attacking the run so much with Nico and Nolan, I thought we could drop one over their head, but maybe the elements, the mud, the game, it wasn't great for them. So
It's good. That's
sticking to
good.
basics probably is the way to go there.
Last question. There was a Nico Freeman in that same game that had a long run that was negated by only having 1 flag on. Whose responsibility is to make sure the young man has 2 flags on?
I think it would be the guy in the huddle, which could be me, but you might be able to blame Coach Stanley on the
Oh,
sideline.
you're passing blame. Come on, Tim. You got to own it now.
That would probably be mine. I noticed you didn't ask about the 4th and 5th grade thrilling championship games.
Yeah, I did. I was going to finish with congratulations on your 2 championship wins yesterday. And, head coaches get the credit sometimes when they deserve and don't deserve. But congrats on 2 wins. It was good.
D- in the first game, and I think an A in the second.
But you
game,
won.
so yes,
You found
that's
a way to
right.
win. That's important, man. So
Thank you.
appreciate that. That was a lot of fun yesterday. So.
Third row on your left, P. Burn.
I thought Tim's game plan was good. They just didn't always execute.
That's right. That's the reality of it. That's the simple answer.
I want to go back to your message on clarity and kind of the constant challenge of I don't know if simplifying is the right way, but making sure you guys understand what are some of the things that you guys are either doing differently or have found work well that allows that message to get through, such that you perform the way you did last game.
Yeah, I think as you look defensively, one, clarity happens with time, right? And you're talking about the second year of the exact same system and the same coaches and the same teaching. Like that helps you become more clear. But offensively, the same thing, right? It's like, what do we do well? How do we find different ways through formation shifts, personnels to continuously do those things we do well? It isn't, I don't want to continue to find ways to trick the opponent, right? I want to out-execute them. And that means our guys on offense know every defensive look they can see so they know how to block it, or obviously they can convert the routes or make the right decision in the pass game. But that's always the challenge, right, is that how do we continue to become more clear? And that takes time for our coaches and our players. Like, you got to spend time with them and see. Don't tell them what happened, but figure out why it happened. Coaches can get really good at asking questions that they just know the answer. They want to hear a certain answer, right? And your kids can get really good at giving you an answer you want to hear, but that doesn't show if they know what they're talking about. And so we have to be able to have those conversations with our players in our rooms to continually understand, like, what exactly are they thinking and why are they thinking it.
Bye week probably came at a good time in terms of health for your wide receivers. I mean, Thomas and Greathouse just haven't been able to play a lot. Where are they at, and do you anticipate, especially even leg injuries like that, they'll be good the rest of the year, or is that going to have to be managed?
No, I think they're going to be as close to 100% this week than they've been all year. And JT was probably a step below where he was 2 weeks ago. So Louisville, he was probably at a higher level in terms of how we felt than he was versus USC, which dictated a little bit of what we did with him. And Greathouse has continuously gotten better and better with his hamstring. So I think both of those guys will be as close to full go as you'll see all year. And that's a week-to-week basis, right? And we have to do things to try to prevent, obviously, soft tissue injuries from happening. And we'll continuously try to do that. But, you never know in the game of football.
Front row, far right, Eric Hansen.
Hey, Coach, following up on the wide receivers, where are you with Deion Colsey right now? And then also, as you get these healthy receivers back, how does Tobias fit into the picture?
Yeah. With Deion, he will probably start some individual this week. He's probably a little bit behind of where we thought he would be with the scope on his knee. But I still see him coming back here in the next couple of weeks and being available. As far as Tobias, we talked about this today in our meeting. We got to try and find ways to get him the ball and take some shots downfield with Tobias, with his body, his length, his speed. We got to try to continuously find ways to truly take shots and not look for just the wide open perfect play. And that's what at times we can end up doing. We got to take shots and believe that he'll make a play on a 50-50 ball, and we have full faith that he will.
And then my other question is regard to the bye week. I know you practiced for 3 days. You guys recruited some. As a coaching staff and as yourself, what did you prioritize beyond those two things, those 3 practices and the recruiting?
You really didn't have much time other than that. 3 days of evaluation, of practicing and then coming back in and watching the film. And then Wednesday, right after practice, told the coaches, get out of here, because Thursday they had to be wherever they're going to be to recruit. So Thursday and Friday we were all out recruiting, and then Saturday I gave them Saturday off, so and then the majority of Sunday off, so that a lot of them can go and see their kids play flag football. And so then we got back in yesterday just to go over a couple of things. But I thought that was important to be able to give them a chance to be a father and a husband for a weekend.
Third row on your left, Tim Priester.
Marcus, a Pat Narduzzi coach team, how would you describe a Narduzzi coach team, and what do you guys have to be good at when you play him and his style of play?
Yeah. I think of tough, I think of physical, I think of aggressive, especially his defense is something I've studied for years, going back to my time in Cincinnati, and even his time at Michigan State when he was defensive coordinator. I remember studying him. I think I was at Purdue at the time, again, but they're really sound. They always have good corners. They're able to play man-to-man with their corners and load the box and say, okay, try to run the ball. And we have to be able to do that. We can't just become a pass-first team. We have to find ways to run the ball versus a loaded box that, you're going to see, and they're going to run pressures. They're those hot pressures that you see over and over. And so we have to be good up front, but I also believe we have to be good with our play-action shots. We got to take some chances downfield and make some plays. And so it will be a game of physicality, right? And that's when I think the challenge for our group is we have to exceed their physicality.
I was curious, during a bye week, you probably don't have the time to sit around maybe like we do to watch football on a bye week Saturday, but do you ever get a chance to watch somebody other than Notre Dame and your 12, 13 opponents in the season?
Sometime. Saturday night, I was able to kind of turn on. I don't want to watch a team we're going to play, because then you feel like you're working, and I was able to watch a little bit of the USC Utah game. I watched a quarter of that, a little bit of the Florida State Duke game. I was just kind of turning, back and forth a little bit, and then kind of went to bed. I need to catch up on some sleep. So, I do enjoy the chance to sit down with my kids and watch football like a normal father, and be able to look at other coaches and teams' stress. But the greatest thing about it is you can root for somebody, and if they win or if they lose, it's okay.
Can you watch it just like indifferent to what's being run specifically, or?
Yeah, I think at times, because you kind of watch the ball. When you're a fan, you watch the ball, right? When you're game planning, you watch specifics, offense, defense. What are you trying to do? It depends on what I'm watching at that moment. But when I'm with my kids, I try to just watch the ball, and kind of watch the game. I got a chance to catch a little bit of the Ohio State game, the very end of it. My wife was running the half marathon. By the time we got home, we were able to watch the last maybe couple series of that game too. So it was good.
Down in front on your right, Pete Sampson.
Sort of Bill and Eric's question about the practices of last week. Was the structure of them any different in terms of like how you divide up the reps, and did that afford any opportunity to look at younger players who maybe haven't played a ton, that like, okay, maybe there's a role for them in the last four? Yeah,
so Monday, for the guys that played in the game, was a typical Monday. They just played a tough game Saturday night, so we couldn't go out and really get after those guys as much as the twos and the threes. We had a lot of good reps, and the same Tuesday and Wednesday, the ones practiced. We had to get after it, but the structure of practice was different because there was a lot of good on good. But the chance for twos and threes to get a lot of reps at the end of practice was important, and so that time is so crucial. And you talk about development of the bottom half of your roster and the future of your roster, to be able to see those guys. And we got to watch it as coaches. The coaches watch it, and let's evaluate it and call things that they know how to do. Like, let's give them a chance to show us what they can do. They're not going to be able to show us what they can do if they're confused. And so I don't care if we had 2 defenses called and 3 offensive plays called. I wanted to see what those young guys could do, and was pleased.
You had mentioned sort of shots and play action. You guys haven't really done that a lot. Like, even when the offense was humming in the first 4, that wasn't like a huge part of it. Yeah. I was interested, like, why that hasn't been a part of the offense all year. Is it just the style of game? Is it Sam's strengths? Is it how Jared's calling it? Like, what's gone into that? No, it's we had success throwing the ball early in the year just because of what our past concepts were, and they didn't have to be play action shots. And then you come back and you say, okay, we got to be able to run the ball.
we didn't run the ball well versus Duke, or, we ran the ball well, I think, versus Ohio State, but versus Duke, we didn't run the ball well. We got to be able to find ways to run the ball. Well, now teams are saying, I dare you to throw the ball, right? And they're truly putting an extra defender in the box. And so, part of that is, okay, now we got to be able to take some shots. We got to be able to look like we're running in a run formation and be able to run some play action shots. And so that will be a challenge for us to continue to evolve that part of our game.
Second row, far left, Tyler James.
I'm curious, bye week, reviewing the offensive line, are you guys going to stick with the same 5 you had, or have you considered any shuffling moving forward with the offensive line?
No, we'll stay with the 5 we had. They've all been healthy and practiced well, and it was good to see, some of those young guys, Billy and Ashton Craig, and some of those guys get a lot of meaningful reps in practice this week.
And then when you get out on the road for some recruiting trips during the season, what do you get out of those trips? What value do you find in those?
I think the ability to see, for me, I want to go see the guys we have committed, and be able to just watch them play in games. I was able to get to three games, I think, and just watch the guys that we have committed play. And one, to let them know we support them, but two, I want to see them compete. It's nothing like a live eval, and that's important for me to make sure I get to as many of our committed guys as I can.
Second row, middle left, Mike Bernardino.
Marcus, for all the categories where the defense has really shined, the third down conversions is one that kind of jumps out where they're down in the list. Is there anything in the self-scout that jumped out, and maybe a common thread why it's been hard to get off the field statistically?
We look at everything. Some are penalties, some are, I think sometimes they catch the ball, and there's a lot of different things that we always look to enhance in all aspects of our football team. But I can't say there's just one thing third down wise that we have to improve on defensively. We'll continue to put pressure on our D line to get pressure up front. And I thought obviously they did a good job versus Caleb Williams, but we're going to continuously try to improve on all areas of third down defense for sure.
And then with a little bit of free time, sometimes players and families want to chat about their role in their future. Looking back to last year around this time, Jacob Lacey made a tough decision. How has this period been, and these few days? Was there any difference in terms of it, maybe being proactive with guys who you might sense were quietly frustrated at all?
I think you have those conversations every week, right? And you don't save those for a bye week. To me, I've always challenged our coaches to continuously have a relationship with the guys in your room, so you know, and they know exactly where they stand and why they stand there, right? And I think it's important. You don't wait until bye week to have that conversation. So I take a lot of pride in making sure all of our players understand where they're at, why they're at in that position, and having that dialogue with their position coach. So again, you're talking. We're going on to week 9. So guys like that want a chance to redshirt, that chance is probably already over. In terms of playing more than 4 games. And so, but again, I think we have to have those conversations every week, right? And that's so important that our kids understand exactly what we're thinking. Here's where I think you need to improve. And we have to have that open dialogue. There is no blind obedience anymore. There is honest conversations that aren't always pleasant to have, but they must happen so our kids understand why they're in the position they're in.
Our last question will be front row on your left, Jack Sobel.
Marcus, regarding the offensive line, the execution against USC, a lot better than it was against Louisville. What were some of the differences you saw on tape, and how can you build on that?
Again, it starts with what we're asking them to do. There's still areas of improvement as you really look at the fine details of things, but I thought they battled their tails off versus a really good front. USC's front four is as good as you'll see, and so I thought our guys battled. And we continuously ask them to do things they can do well.
And then defensively, I think Boubacar Traore, he had 2 snaps, I think PFF said, had the sack in one of them. Is there a space for a larger role for him in the last 4 games?
Yeah, Boubacar is a a really good pass rusher and is continuing to develop trust in the coaching staff, and it's great to see him go out there and make a huge play, obviously, in that 2-minute situation. And we all know what happened after that. But more importantly, man, it's good to see him put himself in his position to make that play for sure.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep. Thank you, guys.